Welcome back, everyone. I'm Quentin Figueroa.
And I'm Jesse Gonzalez.
And we are here with Illy University. And today we're going to be talking more about CSS. So we're going to actually be showing you how to put together the header, content, the sidebar, and the footer so that you can make your website look more like a website.
So if you guys are ready, we're ready for you.
All right.
So let's take it away.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to continue on with the CSS that we were doing last time. So, are you ready?
I'm very ready. Ready.
Okay. So, as you recall from last time, there was the website jsbin.com that we were going to. So, I'm going to go back there. I'm going to go to our FTP program. And I'm going to go in and sign into our demo.illyuniversity account. And in here, I'll put in the password. And then I'll log in. And then
For all of you that are watching our videos, actually I did go in there and use JSBin, and I've been practicing. And it is very helpful, what you showed me last week. So just to say.
Very, very good.
I used it on my website, peacebeblessed.com, and it was awesome.
Very good. So I'm logged into our server here in the public HTML folder. Our main index.html, if I pull that up, I'll go demo.illyuniversity.com. So this is our main file that we were working on from last week. So I just copied this over now to here, and if I view it.
Okay, Quentin, just to recap, please, before you go crazy, just please give us an update on what we're doing at this point. What are we going to be working on? You said CSS, correct?
Yeah, we're going to be working on the styling of everything.
Okay, with Photoshop?
No, mainly just CSS.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so okay, so I'm going to copy this text right here from our file. I'm going to close that. Now, on this site, JSBin, if I paste this in, you will see it appears on the right-hand side. Just kind of what we were doing last time, right?
Okay, so yeah, and then you paste it on HTML, correct?
Yep, because that's the HTML code. And now we're going to take the CSS, and we're going to manipulate that a little bit. So I can make this bigger. So, yeah, with CSS, you remember from last week, you type the HTML tag. So title, H1, IMG, P, whatever the title is, that's what gets styled. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But so then what are we going to do with CSS? Just recap a little bit so people are familiar with what we were doing last week.
Right. So, like, for instance, that main H1 where it says Vermin Supreme, the protester. Yeah. So that right here, we access it like this, and you could change the color like we did last time.
Yeah, which colors goes from, 1 to 9, and then...
Correct. So now there's some other stuff too. So, yeah, so it goes from, this works for every actual thing in our HTML. So all the P's, so you'll see there's this one here, but there's also one down here, another paragraph. There's another one. So any paragraph is going to inherit this. So, for instance, if I do P font size and I go 9 pixels, you'll see that this one is 9 pixels, but so is this one, so is this one, and so on. All the P. Does that make sense?
Okay, just...
So watch. We'll make all of them red.
Okay,
See how they're
correct.
all red?
By you were changing the font, right, though? Before?
Yeah, I did the size.
You went
Now I did
smaller.
the color.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So there's just, so you can combine stuff, as you know, font size, you could go 20 pixels. Now you see it's bigger.
Correct.
You could go font family, which is changing the actual kind of font. So if I were to do something like Arial, it looks now like Arial.
Correct.
Okay, so that's that, and you'll see that it does it for all of these.
Okay, so once you do it for one, it will take over the complete.
Exactly, but now let's say I did only want to do it for the first one, but not these other three.
Okay.
So that's where you start using what's called classes. So this one right here is the first paragraph. Now in the actual HTML, I'm going to add a class. This is how you do it. It's an attribute, kind of like an image. Where in an image, when you add a source, you do src equals, and then you put it in quotes.
Which would be the link, right?
Yes, but now for this, it's the same type of thing because it's an attribute. So it's class equals and then quotes like that. But now you're just going to come up with a name. So I'm going to call this class first. So this is my first paragraph.
Your first paragraph, okay.
Does that make sense?
So, yes, so then CSS knows how to distinguish between paragraphs?
Yeah, I'll show you. Watch. So now I'm going to add just another one too, just to show you. Second. So I have a first and second paragraph. So this is my first one. This is my second. They both have classes. So in order to access a class now, the way I do that, rather than saying P, because P is accessing all the paragraph tags. So I want to just access a class. The way to do that is you go dot and then the class name first. And it would be like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, so then what you're doing there, you're just going to basically be working on the first paragraph, correct?
Yep. Anything that has this class name. So since it's first, so now I could actually do something in addition to this. So watch, I could go background. Now the first one's just going to have a background of black. You see that?
Cool.
So it's in addition. And then if I wanted to do something to the second one, second, since that's a class name, I could go background and I could make it like this.
Cool. And then let's just go back to this a little bit. So the 3 zeros stand for black, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And then the F is distinguishing because it's red, green, and blue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean that stuff, as I talked about last time, it's not that important because most of the time you're just going to be going into Photoshop or some program and just picking the color you want anyway.
Correct, but it's also good to understand.
Yep, so yeah.
At every level.
It goes exactly. So it goes like you said, red, green, blue. So right here, F is the highest value for blue, so it's pure blue and no other color. This one is pure, this one's no colors since it's just black, and then white would obviously be FFF, but you can't see because it's white. So that kind of thing.
What if you did F0F?
So F0F is going to be red and blue. So when you mix red and blue, you get kind of like a purpley. So
cool.
And then if you wanted to throw some, green in there, you could throw some green in with that, and then But so anyway, that's how it works.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll see I have this class and this class, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then these ones, since they don't have classes, they're just using the regular paragraph. And it's cool because, as you know, if I change this back to, let's say, 12 pixels, it's going to change everything that's in the P, but the first and second are going to still keep this thing. If I came over here to my HTML and changed this class to first, it would be the same now as this one because they both have the same class.
So it's just following, second just follows basically what first is doing, or?
No, watch. See, this one's no longer second. The class name is now first. Oh. So these two are sharing the same.
The same. Okay, now I got you.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that. So let's see. We're going to move on, and I want to actually show you how to start, like I was showing you last time. We have, when you're creating an actual website, and I'm just whiteboarding this right now, so it's not, we're going to do this all with CSS. I'm just using Photoshop to illustrate. But you have, in here you usually have a header type thing. If you actually bring this up here. So if you go to CNN.com, you'll see on their website, when it loads, so CNN, they have a header. What I'll do, if I print screen this, and I go to Photoshop.
What did you do there?
Okay, yeah, this is actually, so in Windows, there's a print screen key, probably seen it before on your keyboard.
Correct.
If you hit that, it takes copies the page, whatever you're seeing.
Okay.
So I copied the page, and then I went into Photoshop and pasted it. So now I have CNN and Photoshop. But you'll see here, so a basic page, you're going to have some type of header on the top like this. So you can see there, they have their header, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then you're also going to have now kind of your main body area, which on CNN is all this area. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Okay. And then in this case, they actually have it split into 3 columns. You have your first column right here. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have your middle column right here, second column. Right?
Okay, cool.
And then you have your third column.
Okay, cool.
You kind of get that, right?
Yes. So it's 3 different columns.
Yeah, and then if you were to go down, they'd also have their footer at the bottom. But so I'm going to show you right now how to break up a page to have this header.
Different columns?
Yeah, we're just going to do 2 to keep it simple right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you how to break it up into 2 columns. So we're going to have ours is going to look like this. We're going to have the top header.
Okay.
We're going to do the content right here on the left, like so. We're going to put the the sidebar, on the right here, and then we're going to put a footer, like so. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Now I'm starting to distinguish.
Okay. And then so, if we go back here to this, okay. So I'm going to delete this CSS right now.
Okay.
Just go back to what we had. And then let's crop this HTML down a little bit now, since it's a lot of stuff. We don't quite need all this. Let's go get rid of, let's see here. Okay, we'll just have this right here as our content for now. So I want this area right here. I'm going to print screen it again just to show you. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take this area, and we're actually going to take this, just an illustration, to show you. We're going to take it, and we're going to basically want to put this into this content area right here. So it'll look something like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean the steps to do that, you're doing it and I see you're doing it. But is there a particular step you need to follow to do that?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you how to mark up the HTML to do this right now. Okay?
Okay.
So let's actually start. Okay. I'm going to make this a little bit more simple, actually. I'm just going to start fresh. So right now, we're back to a fresh thing. So what you're going to use is what's called div tag. It looks like this. Div. It stands for, I think, divider. But it's another common tag, like how you have paragraph, whatever.
Correct.
This is like a container tag, so it's like a box. So when you do a div, it's like you're creating a box, and then so you have this, but then if you actually access your div tag like this, div, border, let's just show you like a border real quick. Okay, so you have a box with your div tag, right?
Correct.
So this, for instance, this div, we could give it the class header, and this could be our header, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Header info, like a logo, nav, that kind of stuff could be in here, right? And then we're going to have another div, another box, and this one we might call content. So if we actually go into this now, we would put some content in there. And we will, one second here. Okay, so we're going to now want to access, so you'll see here that we have this content, but they're both of these divs, we're calling it through div, so it's giving them both the border and the same stuff. I'm just right now, I'm still just kind of doing this to show you, but we're going to switch it up really soon.
But you're dividing them, right? You're making 2 different contents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just show you. Okay, so
let me understand this real quick. So you're dividing all 3 that you separated in Photoshop right now. Yeah. And at this point, you're separating all 3 that you're going to be using, which would be the header, the content, and the sidebar, and then the footer at the bottom.
Yeah, so you can see in HTML, I just pretty much created what we're going to do here. Header, content,
cool.
sidebar, footer. Okay. So now it kind of has it structured, but now we need to make it look right to where right now they're just stacked on top of each other.
Okay, cool.
We obviously don't want that, right?
Correct.
So the way we do that now is we're going to access each div with, I'm going to keep the border on them, but I'm going to now start accessing them like so. So if I were to do content, I'm now accessing just the content div. So if I were to show you just a background color, you can see that's just the content one, right?
Okay, cool.
So what we do with the content, you can control the width of something like so. Width equals 50%. So you see how I just made the width go different?
Yeah, thicker.
Yeah, or no, see how it's just...
Oh, it's separating, yeah.
Actually, just to make this a little bit less confusing, I think I can do a margin like this, so they're kind of like, you can see.
Correct. Okay. So it separates.
Yeah. Okay, but so now watch. So I have the content at 50%, and then if I were to do the sidebar also at 50%, you would think that it would go over here to the side, but it doesn't.
And why is that? Just because the width is different, or?
No, you have to use another thing, what's called floating.
Okay.
It kind of gets a little confusing, but I'll...
Okay, well, instead of saying that it gets confusing, you should show me how to do it, and we'll go from there.
So you type float left.
Okay.
Okay, now, and then if I were to take this one and float right, okay. Okay, so you can see it still looks kind of funky here right now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm going to decrease this width to about 40% just so it works right. Okay, so now that you have the sidebar on the right, the content on the left, but
the footer needs to go down, right?
Yeah, so what you have to do anytime you float objects like that, you also have to clear the objects below it. So there's this other attribute called clear both, and you'll see that bumps it. See, you could do clear left, and then it would only clear the left or clear, but usually use clear both anyway. So
okay, so you would put, okay, so then the footer, in order to move it down, you would clear it both, and it would take it off from the middle and go to its proper place, correct?
That's right. So what you're going to use a lot when you're designing the layout aspect with CSS, you're going to use float, like float left usually, you're going to use width, and you're going to use clear both. So these are all float. So these are all things you're going to see a lot. Float left, you're going to see a lot. You're going to see width, 100% or something like that.
So do you, I mean, you just decide how much you want the width to be, correct?
Exactly, yeah. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit again so we can see more what's going on. Okay, so you can see here, we might now, let's take out this border since it could cause some problems. We'll just give them a little bit of a background here so you can kind of see what's going on. So you can just see their little gray background, right?
Correct.
Okay, so let's say we'd want our, in this situation, we want the width to be 60% and then maybe 30% or 40% on this bar. You can see it's still, even if we go 60% and 40%, see how they're not matching right?
Correct.
No, it should be 100. I think it's because of this margin probably, so it is. But now you can see how without the, do you know what I just did there?
Yeah, you did. You cleared the margin and it put them all together in the same.
Right, yeah. So, and then the way we would normally do a margin now, like this, is so the header, let's say we obviously want a margin below it, so we might say margin bottom, and then we might do 10 pixels. So you see now how it has a margin?
Yeah, and it's separating, right?
And then on the footer, you might want to do margin top, 10 pixels. And then it needs to be floated. It gets a little tricky because if you don't float it, see now how it worked, and then I have to do width 100%. It's kind of
that it can be exactly as the header, correct? Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, in time, of course, I'll learn how to do that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's, again, like, so if you float it now, you no longer need clear both. So you can see, just because it's, I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, it does make sense, but you're losing me a little bit. So what's the purpose in floating or not floating, margin or not margin? Okay, or I mean, what is the most useful for a person that's starting to do this?
The most useful is pretty much everything I have right here. This is how you're going to do it a lot. So you have float left, and then you give it a width. When you float something, you're basically allowing it to go to a left or right side of something and so where you could have two items on the same line.
Okay, yeah, and that's understandable, but you want to have float left and right and right. In this case, you have content and sidebar in the same header, right? Well, in the same margin,
Yeah,
I guess you could
line.
say. Yeah, in the same line.
Okay, and then are you confused about that, or does it make sense?
No, it's starting to make sense, but you went from one thing and then to another. So I think we should stick to something and then go from there. And if you're going to change it, explain to us why you're doing it and what's important and what's not important.
Okay. Well, so here we have the only thing now, we need a margin between the sidebar and the content, because right now they're kind of stuck together.
Correct.
So if you were to do something like, let's say content, if you were to go margin right and then do 10 pixels, it's going to actually now, again, go on another line.
Oh, yeah, correct. You showed us that earlier, though, as well.
Yeah, so what we're going to need to do is actually, I'm going to give it a specific pixel width right now. So let's say the content area is going to be 500 pixels.
Okay.
Okay, and then the width of this sidebar, let's say 250 pixels. So now you can see that no matter how wide or how...
They're not together.
Yeah, because you see it has a specific width, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So since it's specific, it cannot become one because one is 500, the other one is 250. So they will mesh, correct?
Right. Because when you do percentages, it changes, like the header and footer are, yeah. But when you actually have a specific pixel width, you can see that it kind of...
It won't take to the other one.
Yeah, so just to kind of show you more of what we would do then is... So normally you would have it... Okay. You would have all this in something also, like some type of maybe container that everything is included in.
So then the wrap, what is that going to do? The container with the word wrap, what is that going to do?
So now if I have like a wrapper, I can give it a fixed width. So everything in here, let's say, I could make 800 pixels.
And all of them will be the same?
Yeah, so you see 800, and then if I go 700, are you seeing how it adjusts over here on this side?
Correct, and it's kind of combining both.
Yeah, so normally the way it would work is you'd normally do a site that's like 980 pixels wide total. So if I actually shrink this down again. Okay, so now over here I'm looking at 980 pixels total. Just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to shrink it down to 780.
Okay.
But so then I want my content and my sidebar to usually be some type of pixel value that's it's going to make sense. So if I have 780 pixels total and I divided that by 2, like, let me bring up my calculator. So 780 divided by 2. So 390 would be directly in the middle pixels.
Correct.
I'm going to want my content to be a little bit bigger. So, and then I'm going to want my sidebar to be whatever size. So let's say I'm happy with 250. And then I want my content to maybe be 510 or 520. You can see here that now if I go 520, it pretty much has the same.
Does it have to add up to the 780?
It doesn't have to, but if I let's say if I were to make this 820 pixels, so it was too wide, you'll see how it'll go longer, but it just won't work right. So we want it to kind of look right. So anyway, so what I have here is 520 plus 250.
Which is 770.
770. And then you see it's 10 pixels less than here, which is that extra 10 pixel margin right there.
Which is what's separating them at this point, right?
Yeah. So if I were to go 530, it would go directly to it.
Okay.
531, just 1 pixel over, I think it would throw that underneath it because it's too big now. Does that make sense? Kind of?
Yeah, it does make sense. So then let me understand, and to recap, you don't have to exactly be at 780 on both?
No, you don't have to, but they're just, if you were to make one too big, like 950 here, it's just going to go, you see what happened?
Yes, I do see.
It's not going to look the way you want it to. Okay, so back to here. So this is kind of like a basic structure, right?
Okay, which is what we're learning right now, correct?
Yes. So, and then obviously here, we're going to have the header at some point. We're going to have the content, footer, and sidebar, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to actually just take this now and put this on our server so we have it all.
All right.
So here's this HTML right here. I'm going to go back to our FTP. And then I'm going to keep this index file right now. I'm actually going to create a new one called layout, let's say. Layout.html. And if I go in here and edit it again, so I'm just going to paste in what we just worked on, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, you just copied and pasted.
Yep. So here's this. If I now copy the layout over, and then I go to our demo site, and then I go /layout, since that's the new file, because I want to access the layout file.
Okay.
Makes sense? Okay. So here's it, right? But it doesn't look how it should because we don't have the CSS yet.
Okay, because you have it on HTML at this point.
Yeah. So just to show you how to do the CSS is to add it, we'll go back here. This site right here, this one is automatically adding the CSS, but in our site we're not automatically adding it. So I'm going to copy this CSS right here, and then here's how you add it in HTML. Okay, so under here, somewhere around here, you go style.
Okay, does it matter where you put it, or
It really doesn't. You could put it like anywhere in your document, but
can you put it after the one? Can you put it, or does it have to go after a certain number?
oh, you mean this one?
Correct.
Yeah. You want to generally put it after a head. You want to usually put it inside of the head. So you see here, I have head. And then
Correct.
head. So you want to put it here generally, but you could, if you wanted to, put it in the body somewhere. You could put it anywhere.
Okay, but then the change word is going to be style.
That's right. And then there's also type. You want to include this attribute usually, text/CSS.
So then that's giving it a command.
Yeah, so basically they know that this is CSS, the browser. Okay, so anyway, so I have my CSS part right here, and then I just paste this in. So I just pasted in all the CSS now, right?
Correct.
Okay, so CSS is there. If I go back to FTP and I re-upload, now when I view this, it looks like that.
Cool.
Okay, so let's continue on.
All right.
So what I'm going to want to do is, on here, I want to add the content where the content area is. So I can take now the content from this file, index.html, that we still kept. So if I just copy this content area, which is pretty much this part in between the body tags, right? Okay. And then I paste it into where it says content. So here's my content div. So obviously anything in here you can see is the content. So I paste in my content. So now we got this.
Okay, cool.
Right? So it's sort of working, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now what I'm going to want to
Because you're putting the content on content, and but you're still going to work on the header. The header is going to be moved up to header, correct?
You're right. Yeah. So I'm skipping the header right now and going just to content.
Okay, cool.
So, and then, so you can see this is all in the content, and it looks, how we would expect kind of, except the images go over too far, right?
Correct.
So, and that could be fixed easily.
Because of pixels?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Let's see. You actually, now, you can control, let me just show you this now. So if I were to put another H2 or H1, if I were to take another H1 for now and put this in the header also and call it, and I would call it header text. So now I have two H2s in the document. I have this one and this one, right?
Correct.
So you can actually, you can choose to only edit a certain H1 in a certain area. So if I want to pinpoint something just specifically in, let's say, the content area, so because if I just do H1 and I change the color,
It's going to change the color of the header only.
both of them.
Okay.
But if I add in front of that, so you see how the header is part of this header class
Correct.
If I go header space H1, it's only going to change the H1 in that area. Does that make sense?
Which would change only the first header. The first header, right?
Yeah, just because it's part of the header class, right?
Okay.
And then if I were to do it to where I just did content because of the content class, it would only change the content one, right? Okay, so the way I would do this now, to fix these images, I would want to go content space img for the image, and then I could do something like width equals 500 pixels, right? So now you see it's here.
Correct. So it made it like look a little bit better.
Yeah, and then I could also give it a 10 pixel margin that will now kind of center it and make it look right. So you see how we have the image right there, kind of like that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's the image. Let's now, or the content area. Let's move on to the header, okay? So in this header now, I'm going to delete what we currently have. Does this make sense so far?
Yeah, it's making sense.
Okay, so in a header, you generally want to have a navigation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so in a header, you're generally going to have maybe like a logo, and then you might have some type of navigation also. So I'm going to now do that for this.
Okay, but logo navigation, you're kind of losing me there. So in the header, why would you want to have that? You mean like as far as like when you go and take a look at a website, right?
If we go back to CNN, you see here they have their logo.
Okay, yes, their logo, and then you want to. I understand now. The navigation
So
part,
these
which
are
is
two things that we want to add.
which is a different areas and the name of the, let's say, website you were creating.
Yep. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to show you, I'm going to save where we are right here, and then I'm going to briefly show you now how to add links to how to jump from page to page.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to take this, copy this right here. I'm going to add it to our let's add it to our main index file. So there's that, and then I'm going to also grab this CSS right here from here, and I want to add that also to here. So real quick, to add the CSS in, you go style, type, text, CSS, like so, paste it, style, like so. Okay, so now our index.html is going to look like so. But hold on, there. So I refreshed it to reload the CSS. But so we have now what we've been working on, right? But I want to show you how to add links and how to make the actual links go to a different page.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just do a 3-page type setup right now. So, okay, back over to back over to here now. I'm just going to take the logo part out right now. We're just going to strictly do links. The way a link works is it looks like this, A. It stands for anchor. So a link would look something like this. So you'll see here, link 1, and then if you go href, okay, so href, you can see how it gives it that link look that you see a lot on sites. See it with that
yes.
the underlined and that kind of thing. So what that does basically is it means when you click it, it's going to take you somewhere, and where that somewhere is what you put in href.
Okay, so in this case, you're gonna put a link like another website or
yeah. So you can either link to an actual website. Like if you click link 1, I could just say. So you'd actually put the full web in with HTTP. So you go HTTP:// and then you could put like www.cnn.com. So if I were to click this link now,
or you could put www.
You could put Peace Be Blessed, or you could put dbd.net.
Okay, or Peace Be Blessed.
Very good. So let's do that. So I'm going to type in
Peace Be Blessed.
Okay, so watch. I have link 1. Now if I click it, See how it takes me to peacebeblessed.com?
Let me see. Cool.
So there it goes. So now we're on peacebeblessed.com.
Cool.
Okay, so if I go back, you could make that take you anywhere. You could also make it take you to a specific page. So there's an about page on peacebeblessed.com, so it's /about. So now if I click it, you can see it takes me to the about page, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So, but
it will take you basically to all the pages that, like, let's say you're in a page, and then that page has other categories, I guess you could say. Then if you add that with a slash, it will take you automatically to that, like the About Me page and so forth.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. So I'm just going to see if I can add the style this way. It would actually probably make it a little bit easier for us. So let me try this 1 second. So text style. So if I had the style here. Okay, so we'll just edit the CSS here now rather than here. It's kind of the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. So this is one of my pages right here. And I'm actually going to retitle it now to call this, okay, so where this H1 is, kind of this main title, I'm just going to call this home page. So now you can see this is the home page. That makes sense?
Okay.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to copy this, go back to our FTP index.html, which is the home page file, the main default one. I'm going to paste that in, so now we have home page. If I re-upload it and view it, okay, so now it says home page, right? And you have link 1 here, right?
Correct.
So I want to create 2 other pages and link between them. So here's what we do. Index.html is page 1. I'm going to delete this layout. I'm going to delete this because we don't need this anymore. Okay, so index.html. If I copy this and then, sorry, I tried to paste it, but I'm going to have to, I think, paste it. I think, yeah. So, okay, I'm going to go here to this folder. We have our index.html. I'm going to paste it, so a copy of it, right? I'm going to rename this to, let's say, about.html. This would be our about page. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then I'm also going to come over here and I'm going to paste one more and call this, let's say, services. So now we have 3 pages total, right?
Because you're doing 3 different links.
Yeah, but they're all right now the exact same page. So
okay.
Even if we go to about.html, you can see it still says homepage.
Okay.
So what we would do ideally is we would edit the about page to say something like, just so we know that it is the about page, about, right?
Okay.
And then I'm also going to edit the services page to say services rather than what it says right now, homepage, right?
Okay, so hold on. The about, go back to that other page.
So about.
Okay, you added it on to, okay,
So
you
correct.
About. But when you pasted it where? Can you show me that again real quick?
Yeah. Okay, so in the about, I'm editing it like we would edit it, where it says H1.
Okay, H1, it would be about. And then when you put services, where would you put services?
I put services in the same exact place. So you see here on line 23, there's this H1.
Okay.
If I go back to services, you'll also see on line 23, there's that same H1.
Okay.
This time it says services.
Okay, so you're just going, does it know? I guess what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter if you put about first and then services, and then now you're going to go back and put the third one. So then does it know, it understands the command and puts it in order?
What do you mean now?
Okay, because you took about off and then you added services.
Yes, but those were 2 different pages. It wasn't
Okay,
the same page.
it was a different page.
Yes,
Okay.
because you see I edited services, 3 different documents.
Correct. So that's where I was kind of confused.
Okay, and each document represents a page on the site.
Correct. So maybe if you go a little bit slower, just so that I can catch what you're doing.
Okay, so now I'm going to upload these to our server. So we have index.html, about.html, and services.html. These are all on our server.
Correct. Which is the 3 link pages we're working on.
So here's this one. Now, if I want to access the about page, I would go to about.html, right?
Correct.
And you'll see there it is. And if I want to access the services page, .html. So the thing now, we want these to link to each other. We want to have something up here where we click it and it goes there, right?
Correct.
Okay, here's what you do. So we'll go to just our main homepage. And let's go back into this. Okay, so the way you do that is like I was showing you with these links right here. So here's one link.
Okay.
You would want this link, so this is going to be the home page, let's say.
Okay.
So obviously, you could link it this way. You could just go straight like demo.illyuniversity.com, and that could be the home page.
Okay.
Or you could do the, well, let's continue on. So you have that one link, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So the second one's going to be about, right?
Correct.
And then the third one's going to be services. So these are the 3 links now that you can see at the top.
Correct. Okay. Now I got it.
Did you kind of get what's going on?
Yes.
You look excited.
It's one of those aha moments
Okay.
when you know you just got something.
Okay, so right here, what do you think I'd put then for the link for the about page? What would it be? So no, okay, so I would put about.html, right?
Okay.
Because I want to go to the about page. Here, services, I would go services.html, right? And then this one you could leave either as the home page like that, or you could put index.html. Right?
Okay.
Because they both go to the same thing. I'm just going to leave it like that. So now we have these 3 basic links that should go to the right page, right?
Okay. So then all this is being done in HTML right now, and we're using CSS. We're doing it on CSS.
No. Okay, so we're doing it as HTML. The CSS was this part right here.
Correct.
Which we did a little bit of, but we haven't done lately because right now we're doing more structural data stuff.
So we're just structuring
Yeah,
the
but
page.
if you look at it, you can see how right now these links kind of look typical and they're not styled at all. Later, we would go back with CSS to style them.
And that's when a little bit of Photoshop comes into play, correct?
Yes, Photoshop also would come into play.
Cool. Cool.
Okay, so here's this homepage now with the 3 links. I'm going to copy this and put it back onto our main index file, and then I'm going to upload it to our server so you can kind of see. Do you follow what's going on?
Yeah. Go ahead and do it again because you keep pressing something.
So I go into our FTP program.
Correct.
I copy the stuff that we were just working on.
Okay.
I paste it into our file, and then I upload our file onto the server so that when I go to demo, it now has those updated changes with
Correct.
these 3 links.
What do you
Okay.
mean, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, I got
so I have the 3 links. If I hover over it, you'll see in the bottom left right here, it says demo.illyuniversity.com, about.html, and then services. So it has the pages right. So if I click, let's say, about, it should take us to the about page.
Okay.
Are you excited?
Very excited.
Here we go. So now we're on the about page. But
Correct.
look, we have a problem because we don't have those links anymore.
Okay, yeah, you have link 1,
But so we need to actually add those links to the other 2 pages now, so they also have that, if that makes sense.
yes, well, so that all 3 pages have the same link.
So here's the code. So this code right here, these 3A links, right? I'm going to copy these from our main index page. I'm going to open up these 2 pages, about and services.
What do you press when you press there?
Did you like that?
Well, it's because you go so fast that it's kind of confusing.
Rather than opening each document individually, I held shift.
Okay.
So I selected 2.
Okay.
And then I right-clicked, and then I clicked TextPad, which opens them with TextPad, and you'll see now they're both loaded up as tabs.
Okay, so you're opening them under TextPad.
Yeah, and I opened 2 documents at once.
Okay, well, that's understandable for a professional like you, but a person that's learning.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
You're funny.
Okay, so now I'm in the About page. See how it has that old link where it just says link 1, right? So I'm going to take that out, and then I'm going to add those other 3 in, right? So now that's good. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Same
it does.
with services. So now they all are linked appropriately.
So then you're just adding them to the other, you added it to the about and to the services.
Yep, I just closed it, and I just re-uploaded it.
You closed it and re-uploaded it
To the server.
To
So
the
now-
demo page.
So see how this is the outdated one? If I refresh it, now we get the updated one.
Correct.
So
And it's
now-
going to be like that in all 3 pages.
Yeah, so ready? Services, about, and home page. And see how they all link between each other?
Correct.
So I can go however I want to do it.
Cool. Cool.
So that's kind of the basics on that. Would you like me to proceed?
Please do so, Mr. Figueroa.
Okay, we're going to move on then.
It's not Figueroa. Figueroa.
Figueroa.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to finish this page up then. So we have the home page about services. I want to add the logo and then maybe a sidebar.
Okay.
And then maybe a little bit of a footer.
Okay.
So we will continue on. Okay, so back to this cool site here.
So we're still on HTML.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're doing mostly
Correct.
HTML stuff. So
Because we're structuring the page.
I'm going to, again, take down this content a little bit and make it smaller. Because I don't want to have all this content for us to mess with. Okay, so now we just have a basic picture and text for the content. So what I'm going to do now is add in a logo to the side. I'm going to make the navigation go over here to the right and let's say keep it on the right side. And then I'm going to add a little bit of content into a sidebar. And then I'm going to finish it off with a footer. So that is where we are going to go next. So in order to do the logo, I'm just going to grab a logo. And I'm going to grab CNN's logo. So if I go to Google and type CNN logo, you will see that Google Images will give us quite a bit of logos to use. So I'm just going to grab one of them like this. I'm going to open it up in here. And then if I go to full size image and then I right click on it and go to save image as, I could save it and then upload it to our server, or I could just access it directly just by going to this address. So,
Okay.
yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this onto our computer, save image as, and then you'll see here it has this big address. I'm just going to call it
CNN.
Yeah, let's call it cnn.jpg. So there, I'm going to save it into this temp folder for now. That's fine. So save. Okay, so now here you will see we have cnn.jpg. I'm going to upload this to our server. And now we need to get this into our document.
Okay.
So back here, if I go demo.illinouniversity.com/cnn.jpg, you'll see now we have this cool logo. So I'm going to go here, and if I want to bring that logo in, I would go. Do you know what tag I would use to bring an image in?
IMG
Yeah,
for
right.
image.
Yep. So IMG, and then the source is going to be demo.illinouniversity.com/cnn.jpg. Boom, there it is, nice and big. So I would now want to, okay, so we have the logo, here we have the navigation, right? I'm going to put these into another div, so another container. So in the HTML now, you'll see I'll go div class equals logo. You see that? And then I'm going to end it right here to where I just have this logo in there.
Because you're dividing at this point.
And then also here, div class equals, let's go nav. And then I'm just going to put all those three links in there. So that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, you're adding everything together at this point, right?
Yeah, so in this header div, I now have a logo div and a nav div. And these elements are in the nav, this element, and tag, not element. I know last time the element threw you, but there. So, okay, so we're running a little bit over, so I'm gonna finish this up really quick right now, just real quick, okay?
Okay.
And then so you want to make this logo not quite that wide, right? So in the CSS here, I'm gonna go header, and then logo, and then IMG, okay, and then width I could do something like 200 pixels. Boom, there it is.
Cool.
So we like that. one other thing though, before we finish. So I'm gonna want to also float this logo. I know I'm going a little quick. So I floated that. Okay, this float left just to kind of show you. So you see how I'm fixing a few things right now by making.
Yeah, but explain what you're doing though.
Yeah. Okay, let me explain. So, okay, when I float the logo, you can see how now everything kind of gets messed up. The homepage, everything goes over. That's because this header it's not floated. So if I float the header, now that kind of fixes it. But if it's still, these elements aren't being dropped down.
Because you want the header to be on top, correct?
So I give it the full width of 100%, and then it bumps everything down.
Okay, which looks better. And then now if you want to center it.
Yeah, so I'm actually just going to leave it on the left to keep it simple right now. But I do want to actually make the navigation float to the right. So I'll float that right, and then you'll see it's over there on the right.
Oh,
So
that's pretty cool.
yeah, so we'll leave it like this for now. Let me copy this, cruise over to our index file. I'm going to paste it in right now, and then I'm going to re-upload it. And then we are going to go to our demo site, and if you view the homepage, you'll see that it can't be found because I added this little character here. So now we have those new changes, and everything kind of looks like it's coming together like a website, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to end it here, and next week we're going to continue on finishing this off, and we will take it from there. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope this made sense and was valuable. Anything to say, Jess?
No, not really. It's starting to make more sense each week, so I'm kind of happy because I think I'm gonna be a web designer soon.
All right. Well, there you have it. Thanks. Thank you very much, everyone, and we will pick this up very soon. Goodbye.